Mr Speaker, my question is to the Prime Minister. The Abbott-Turnbull government cut $30 billion from Australian schools. Yesterday, the Prime Minister promised to reverse $1 billion of those cuts. Does the Prime Minister really expect people to be grateful that he's now only cutting $29 billion from Australian schools? Cuts which will mean less individual support and less individual attention for every student and every school.
The Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I thank the Prime Minister for the opportunity to respond to the question on education, which shows, Mr Speaker, that over the budget and forward estimates and the announcement we made on the weekend, this would see public school funding increase by a third over the budget and forward estimates, Mr Speaker, by over a third. And what it means, Mr Speaker, is $1.2 billion in additional funding over that period of time. And what is more important about the announcements, Mr Speaker, is not just the amount of funding in addition that we're putting into it, but the focus on getting outcomes for that spending and ensuring that we get back to basics and we're getting the outcomes that parents are looking for and the improvements in teacher quality that is necessary to drive those education outcomes. And there are many people, Mr Speaker, who support a greater focus on outcomes in education when it comes to how we match our spending. And one of those is the member for Fraser, Mr Speaker. In his one of his many tomes, Long-Run Trends in School Productivity, Evidence from Australia, the member says, all too frequently education policy debates focus on inputs rather than outputs. That's what he has to say. He says the results of a school system achieves what is important that it achieves for a given level of inputs. Mr Speaker, those opposite are proposing to the Australian people to fund what they claim they can do in education by tobacco excise and funding increased spending with higher taxes. Now, we've heard that all before, Mr Speaker. We've heard it all before. The mining, resource and rent tax, when it was introduced by the Leader of the Opposition, this is what he had to say. He said the MRRT will fund billions of dollars of new roads, bridges and other critical infrastructure. He said the MRRT makes it possible to increase the superannuation guarantee levy. He said the MRRT also makes it possible to deliver fairer super concessions for 3.6 million low-income earners. Now, he said the 2012-13 budget outlined the MRRT would raise $9.7 billion. That's what he said. But we know that the outcome demonstrated it raised just around $400 million, Mr Speaker. What we know is when those opposite try to fund important expenditure through tax measures, Mr Speaker, with the Leader of the Opposition, with Bill Shorten, we know it just never adds up.